This guy said, I realized that life outside of jail is not going to be different than life here, that I need to commit to here. And that's where freedom is. And, that's a nice thing to say, but to really get that he got that. He said, I'm no longer looking forward to getting out of jail because I can get out of jail any second. And that's by committing to now. And that's really all of our situations. We're always thinking as soon as I get the more money or the relationship or whatever, then I can relax, be happy, transcend, whatever. But obviously that future never actually happens. It's always happening now.
Welcome to Letting Go and the Greatest Secret, where we explore the end of your suffering and the beginning of lasting happiness. I'm Hale Dwoskin, and today I'll be joined by Jonathan Robinson. Jonathan Robinson is a psychotherapist and an author of 14 books. He has made numerous appearances on Oprah, CNN, and other national shows, and he co-hosts the popular podcast Awareness Explorers. Jonathan's most recent book is The Enlightenment Project. In the book, he shares the best methods, stories, and ideas he's learned from interviews with 100 spiritual teachers, offering a concise roadmap to a more peaceful life. For those of us who don't know much about you and your work, can you give us just a little description so we know what's going on?
Sure. Well, I got into this at the ripe old age of 12. Started meditating due to a dysfunctional childhood. And then I realized that a lot of people knew a lot more than me. If I could find out the best ideas and methods for dealing with things like first depression and then happiness, and then finally call it enlightenment, that maybe some of their wisdom would rub off on me. So I ended up interviewing everybody from the late Mother Teresa, Ram Dass, Wayne Dyer, to current teachers like you and Adyashanti and Deepak Chopra and the Dalai Lama. And over 100 teachers in all. And I'm always asking what can help us live truly happy and awakened lives. I did it first so that I could help myself, but then a lot of people want to know the greatest hits. So that's kind of what I've done. And it's been a great honor to interview all these people and learn from them. And as you know, I have a podcast now called Awareness Explorers, where I also interview current teachers. And I'm kind of lazy, Hale, so I like approaches kind of like the Sedona method, where you can do it in a minute, while you're stuck in traffic.
Right.
Those are the ones that I tend to like the most. And I wrote this book, The Enlightenment Project, which is kind of my version of the greatest hits and methods I've come across with the stories of what it was like spending time with all these different people.
That's great. That's great. So, so tell me your greatest hit.
Well, there's this thing called the Sedona method. I don't know, you may have heard of it.
I have heard of that. Wow.
Yeah. You should check it out sometime.
I'll have to do that.
But, the real answer to that is that when people try a few different things, they find what really works for them. So although I'm a fan of the Sedona method, I'm a fan of different meditations and different methods, some of which I'll talk about, people are different and they're at different places on the journey. They got to find what really knocks your socks off now.
Right.
Currently, some of the things that I really like, and one of them about, I call it the Lester Levinson meditation, I made a list of 100 people I've connected with in my life, and I spend maybe a minute to 2 minutes on each person and get totally engulfed in a feeling of love and appreciation and uh, being open to that frequency, and then letting go into pure beingness is a pretty easy and wonderful experience. Another method, which as somebody Jeffrey Martin teaches, is just going back and forth with somebody, saying the answer to what awareness is. Like, awareness is a recognition of all that is once we let go of the sense of being a limited ego.
Yes.
And, people going back and forth describing this thing is a nice little method. But in the book, I probably give 30 of my favorite things. And your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to find the ones that work for you.
Well, isn't that what everyone's doing? Whether they're on the spiritual path or not, they're looking for what is going to work for me.
Well, I think a lot of people just kind of get lost in the culture of the society they live in,
Yes,
and they
definitely.
don't keep exploring. So I think, the tagline of the podcast I do is keep exploring, because if you do, you will find something other than, what our culture gives us, which is the answer to all your problems is more money, more relationships, more everything. And
Right,
of course, that doesn't work.
right, right. You've mentioned that you've been doing this since age 12,
Yeah.
and you've gone through transitions. So where have you ended up?
Well, I've ended up here talking with you, or something is talking. At first it's, was largely trying to be out, not be depressed, not kill myself as a teenager,
Yes.
and then it became, I got into like career success and money, and, I got on the Oprah show a bunch and other shows, and that was a fun ride. But at some point I realized that I'm reinforcing this sense of me, and and there is no actual me. So I'm reinforcing an illusion. So in the last few years, it's become more of letting this body mind be a vehicle of service, and letting go of any sense of me to be with just what is right here and right now.
Hmm.
And that's that's one wing of a plane, the sense of beingness and being with it all. And then the other sense is like, playing in the fields of the world of having relationships and money and doing things. And I think they're both important. When you put those two together, you have a plane that can soar.
Right.
And also I see that, when people focus on only one of those wings, whether it be the material world and a sense of me and success, or even the quote spiritual world of just being, if you only focus on one of those without a balance, you can often go around in circles and crash, because I think we are all of it. We're both limited beings and egos, and we are everything. And trying to hold those two together, I think, is really where people should be going, into a sense of integration of those two aspects.
Mm-hmm. So do you feel integrated?
In moments. Closer than I've ever been before. It's always trying to lean left because you're too far to the right, or lean right to too far to the left.
So are you actually going somewhere?
No, that's always the case. But there is a very powerful sense of Jonathan who thinks he is sometimes.
Okay.
I tried not to take that character too seriously. He's my old teacher. I had a teacher I actually lived with, like you. I spent 25 years around a teacher, And he said if you can kind of just like watch yourself impartially, you'll never lack for amusement. And
That's
very
great.
true, very true.
That's true. We are definitely amusing to watch.
Yeah, yeah.
Who was the teacher that you spent that time with?
His name's Justin Gold. He's still alive. About 7 years ago, after being with him for 25 years, he said, "Okay, go on. Do your thing. Uh, there's not much more I can help you with."
Mhm.
And I appreciated that because, he doesn't try to keep his students. He doesn't charge money. And, he said, like, it's time for you to move on.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, and every year or so we connect, and it's sweet, and I'm very grateful to him. And as you know, because you spent a lot of time with Lester, Enlightened Master, sometimes you have to move forward because if you're focused too much on your teacher, then you don't realize that the universe and that wisdom and beingness can also move through you.
Right, right. Actually, that was actually the experience here is that a lot of what Lester said to me was circling the landing pad, sticking with your analogy,
Uh-huh.
and didn't start to land until after he died.
Mm.
Some stuff started happening immediately after he passed that he'd been alluding to for a long time, and it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense. I'll give you just a simple thing.
Mm-hmm.
The way the mind is we think everything is either one way or the other way, black or white. And Lester used to say, it's not black or white, it's gray.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't like that. I didn't want there to be any gray area. So while I was alive, he said that, and it didn't land until months after he died. I went, oh, that's what he was pointing at.
Right, right. Yeah.
The other thing he said, though, that was kind of funny is he used to say, you don't only hear maybe 10%. This when he was in front of, we used to have these things called intensives, and
Yeah.
it was led by somebody else, but he would come in for a few hours just to share a little bit. He actually came in and he stirred everybody up, and then
Right. Sounds like my teacher, actually.
right. Anyway, and he would say, you only hear 10% of what I say. And in the decades since then, as I've been put in this role where whatever is coming through here, I realized he was being very generous at 10%.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, so and what led you to you have a book, right?
Yeah. The Enlightenment Project.
The Enlightenment Project. So what led you to write the book, The Enlightenment Project?
Well, I feel a sense of responsibility. Not many people get to interview everybody from Mother Teresa to the Dalai Lama. I've had a weird life. One of the things my teacher did is he said, if something's important to you, go for it, So I would be very sincerely, just a quick story.
Oh, go
I,
ahead,
al-
sure.
I always wanted to interview Ram Dass. He was a big influence in my life.
Yes.
And Ram Dass equally wanted to not be interviewed by me at that time.
Well, he went through long periods where he didn't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah, yeah. So one day he calls me up and he says, "This is Ram Dass." And I said, "Oh, I'm very excited to talk to you." He said, "Yeah, I realize that according to my secretary, you've sent 23 letters and have called me 41 times over the course of a year. And the reason I'm calling you is I want to see if you're on a mission from God or a complete lunatic."
So which are you?
Well, I
That's
said a little
great.
bit both, and he said, well, you sound like me. I'll give you the interview. So,
Right, right.
and we ended up becoming friends. And he was a wonderful inspiration and man. And so, I felt a responsibility that I got all this stuff originally for me. But as you know, when you pass things on, you get it in return. So
Yes,
the book was trying to pass on the best of what I've learned from these people, their methods, their humanness. You
yes,
know, um, you can be an enlightened being and still be very human and have faults, and I think people sometimes forget that.
yes, yes. Oh, definitely. I mean, what happens is there really aren't, at least from this perspective, there aren't really enlightenment beings. There's
Hmm.
just beingness, and sometimes it expresses through particular body minds in a way that people start putting these people up on a pedestal and thinking they're special and thinking
Yeah,
they're different than everybody else. But beingness is um, this is cheating a little, but beingness is expressing itself through every apparent person, uh, and it's not unique to just a few. Would
yeah,
you agree with that?
yeah. Um, and that potential in any moment is available in all of us. And
Yes,
things like the Sedona method or other things are really letting go of the imagined limitation that we have created,
yes.
and that creates a sense that I currently teach meditation as a volunteer thing in jails,
Hmm.
and some of the most profound, wisest things I've ever heard have come from those inmates. Because they're like in an ashram, they're in a confined space. They read books, they're sincere, and people think I'm being nice that I do this. In reality, I'm being fed by people in a very confined way, letting spirit or beingness move through them, and also I get out of jail every week, which is great.
You have uh, from Monopoly. You still
Yeah, I
carry
get out of
around the
jail,
get out of jail free card.
which is a good feeling.
It's nice to just visit.
Yeah, yeah. It's a nice place to visit. I wouldn't want to live there.
Right. So, give me an example of some wise thing that you heard from an inmate.
Um, well, one time, recently, this was like 3 days ago, this guy said, I realized that life outside of jail is not going to be different than life here, that I need to commit to here, and that's where freedom is.
Wow.
And that's a nice thing to say, but to really get that he got that. He said, I'm no
Yes.
longer looking forward to getting out of jail because I can get out of jail any second, and that's by committing to now.
Uh, that's
And
beautiful.
that's really all of our situations. We're always thinking as soon as I get the more money or the relationship or whatever, then I can like relax, be happy, transcend whatever. But obviously that future never actually happens. It's always happening now.
Yes. Well, even beyond now. But would you agree with this that most of us don't realize that to the degree that we think we're a separate individual, we already are in jail.
Mhm.
Even those of us who have all the toys.
Yeah. Yeah. Gurdjieff, great teacher from the 20th century, said you have to first see that you're in prison in order to want to escape from it.
Right, right.
And my old teacher was very good at doing that. We had like 20 of us living in a house for like 20 years.
Uh-huh.
when you're living 20 people in a house, you start, and we all annoyed each other. We all had our thing.
Yes, yes, yes.
You start to say, "Wow, I'm in prison," and that was helpful because I like to think of myself as a good guy, and then I started to see, well, it's not that I'm a good guy; it's that I've been able to manipulate things so that I'm not triggered all the time.
Mm,
But you're not really free until you can be in almost any situation and be relaxed.
yeah. Well, I, this is an interview of you, so I'm not going to keep jumping in.
Well, you know how it is. Anytime you use words, you're creating like a dualistic framework.
Oh, I know, I know.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
just discussed this about
yeah,
how language is just symbols representing concepts about that which never really was.
yeah. Right, right. And
Anyway,
and in fact, one method that I like, in terms of like really simple methods
yes.
that work for me, are things like look at the world as having no actual word descriptions.
Hmm.
Babies obviously live in that state, but it's our symbolic representation or representing through language and words that create all this separation, that create all this imaginary world that actually does not exist.
Yes.
And so just the word, like, notice that everything is wordless. Or if I'm fixated on something, even fixated on the character of being a Jonathan, I might say, and what else is going on? Well, I feel the sensations of the chair. And what else is going on? There's nature in front of me. What else? There's an awareness. What else? There's beingness, happening. And just opening the aperture of our limited ego mind that is always kind of getting fixated on things, and instead opening it so that everything's coming in and things just are.
Yes. It's
So,
funny.
there are all these little tricks. Sometimes I get a little bit too involved in the tricks.
Yes,
You
yes,
know?
that's a good point. Wouldn't you say that often the tricks can turn into chains?
Yeah. Well, oh, I'm writing that one down, Hale. That's going to be my next book.
Oh, you should do a book on tricks are for kids.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Somebody already used that statement though, so I'm not sure if I can.
Yeah, it's a cereal
Yeah,
commercial.
right. But you gotta see where the tricks start being chains. Stories can be good. They can lead you in the right direction, or they lead you in the wrong direction. Here's a story that comes to mind.
Oh, good.
So I was in India meeting. You might know Papaji. Have you?
Yes,
You?
I know who he
Yeah.
is, sure.
Well, I didn't know who he was, so somebody said, "Hey, he's in the next town over. You should meet him." So I was there, and I go, and his quote ashram was his house. So I enter his house, and he's like right there with 20 people in his living room, and he's told me to sit in front of him. So I did. I'm all nervous, and his thing was he was a devotee of Ramana Maharshi. So he gets up
Yes.
close to me and he says, "Who are you?" And I didn't know anything about that technique or Ramana Maharshi. So I said, "I'm Jonathan Robinson from the United States." And he and the other 30 people start laughing. And I think, well, that was the wrong answer. So he says, "No, who are you really?" And I go, "Well, I'm a seeker." And he kind of shakes his head, "No." I go, "I'm a writer." Nah. I'm a psychotherapist. No. I do this for about 2 minutes and people are snickering. And I finally just ran out of roles.
Yes, yes, yes.
So I'm looking at him, and I don't know if you ever met him personally, but he had like light coming out of his eyes. He looked like he was going to explode with joy.
Yes, yes.
And as I'm looking at him, I feel this like thing in my chest, and it feels like a little weird, and but I decide to relax with it, and something like a wave, like a tsunami of love hit me. That was so surprising that what ended up happening is I started just weeping uncontrollably in his lap.
Uh-huh.
Something like this had never happened to me before. And I couldn't stop. I was just, weeping in his lap. I'm trying to drool on him, and he pats me on the head and he says, "This love you feel now, that's who you really are. And your
Uh-huh.
job is to never forget it."
Uh-huh.
And I think that is our job. And I try to take my job seriously.
Well, if you're going to have a job, that's
Yeah,
not a bad job.
seems to work.
Yeah, well, I do think this planet would be it might be very different if everyone had that one job.
Yeah. You know, Sometimes people say, well, they'll ask a question. I'm sure you hear certain questions like this, like, so what'd you learn from 100 teachers, or what's the meaning of life? And I would ask that of like the first 50 I interviewed, but then I stopped asking because everybody said the same thing. I found that interesting because you can't get 50 scientists to agree what a virus is, but you can get every spiritual leader practically on earth to agree what we're here to do. And for 14.95, people can find that answer in my book. No, I'm not.
It's a good one.
Actually, before I give the answer to that, um, sometimes people say, what similarity did you find between all these teachers?
Yes.
And one of the things I said is almost all of them had a really good sense of humor.
Right, right. That makes sense. It
Yeah,
does.
yeah.
This life is a joke.
If you're in on it, it's funny. If you're not in on it, it's not funny.
Right. Well, and we're the punchline.
We are the punchline. Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so what they said is that basically they all said we're here to do two things. One is to find some peace, love, beingness, whatever you want to call it, within yourself. Find that place.
Mhm.
And the second thing is from that place of connected with the wholeness, with peace, with love, go out and help people and serve people because there's a lot of suffering out there. And yeah, it's a pretty easy formula. We're looking for a few good people that might want to join us,
That's
and
right.
do that. And as Ram Dass said, we're all walking each other home. So it's really a joint effort, and we're all in on the game.
Yeah, yeah. It's a beautiful way to see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
I
go ahead.
have one more story which I wanted to share
Sure.
because there's a method involved, and it's a method. Something that I find interesting with methods is that sometimes the simplest ones are the most powerful.
Definitely.
And but nobody's figured out a way to make $1 million or $1 billion selling, could you let this go?
No. It's too simple.
It's too simple, right? So, but we both know the simple methods are powerful. So I had a friend come back from India who was lit up, and I asked him what happened in India, and he said, "Well, my guru gave me this magical mantra that helps me feel gratitude and all the time, and that everything's perfect." I go, "Really? I want the best methods. What was it?" He said, "Well, you got to go to India and get it directly from him." Have you been to India, Hale?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's not an easy place to travel to or
No.
be in.
Not even a little. The expect the unexpected
Yeah.
is is an understatement in India.
Yeah, yeah. If you can see everything is perfect in India, you've made it, you know.
Oh yeah, and things you experience in the West are just nothing compared to India.
Yeah, yeah. So anyways, I go to India and it's 110 degrees or whatever it is, and I take a rickshaw for 4 hours. I want to get this, stupid friggin' mantra. And so I finally get to the ashram and there's a 3 hour line to talk to the guru. I'm jet lagged, and I finally get a chance to talk to him. I say, I hear you have this mantra for helping people feel gratitude and know that everything's perfect. In his Indian accent, he says, yes, my mantra is the most powerful mantra on earth. So he's leaning into whisper in my ear. I'm not even breathing because I want to get it just perfect,
Yeah.
And he says, whenever possible, repeat these words. The mantra I give you are the words, thank you. So I look at him and I say, that's it? And he says, no, no, no. That's it is the mantra you have been using. That makes you feel like you never have enough. My mantra is thank you, not that's it. That's it will take you nowhere.
That's funny.
It was not funny at that moment.
I'm sure it wasn't.
But, I had traveled all that way. He said, you have to feel your heart and then say thank you to the universe. So, we're talking to each other across the country for free. And we get to talk about this, thank you. I'm thinking thank you as I see your face.
Yes.
Thank you as I see the tree outside. Thank you that my body. I had a toothache last week. I didn't wake up with a toothache today. Thank you,
Right.
and it creates a different, you're no longer resisting reality.
Yes.
And, you can't sell that mantra, but if you can actually use it throughout the day, it will change your consciousness. And
yeah.
really simple things can work great.
Oh yeah, that's I never gave it out as a mantra. I didn't realize it was a mantra. Thanks for telling me. But
Yes, you'll have to tell people they have to go to India to get it. But
yeah, and then yeah. But anyway, that has been a suggestion that came through here for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Just that sense of inner thankfulness, and I find that it seems to happen spontaneously. It doesn't always need a conscious thought.
Yeah.
And
Well, I find it's a little bit like a flywheel that I have to get it going a little bit in the morning. And then once you are a little bit out of the mind resistance habit, which I often wake up with,
yes,
that then it happens by itself.
Yes. And when I talk to people about this and suggested it, the other thing I pointed out is that it's also, you don't just thank for the good stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's an important piece. If you thank just the good stuff, then there's the resistance to everything that isn't the good stuff.
Yeah. And it might, I tell people it might be good to start with the easy stuff, but the real transformation happens when it's your whole approach to life of not resisting. I once asked Adyashanti, can you summarize what spirituality means to you? And he said, will 2 words work? I said, yeah. And he said, no resistance.
Yes.
So that's really the a path or the path, and that mantra can help sometimes.
Yeah, no, it's still something that comes through here occasionally to tell people.
Yeah, I like how even in your language that we don't put more focus on the personal than we have to. Like it comes through here, it comes through this body mind. I find, in with my teacher, one of the methods he suggested is just eliminate the word I. And you have to go through all kinds of word gymnastics, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
But it does get you to see, like, this being is, or this body is hungry, or there's a thought going through here that says that this should not be happening,
Yes,
and
yes.
it does create that less personal view. And we live in like this celebrity culture that idolizes, success and personalness, and that is all kind of in the opposite direction of what is.
Yes, yes. Although even with that, you know, on retreats when we do them, there, the speaking will sometimes be in this form.
Hmm.
But I don't use this kind of language on the checkout line. This body would like to pay for these items in this cart.
Yeah, right, right, right.
But
They cart those people away.
they do exactly. I was going to say something similar. But one of the things I actually um, two things. One is I've noticed that just changing language doesn't get to the depth. And so
Hmm.
what I tell people is, yes, here we may change it a little bit as an exploration or a process,
Hmm.
but don't change your language in life.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
you can do it as a temporary exploration. The thank you thing is something you can do throughout life. That is inwardly saying thank you is something that is just really transformative for the person because
Especially if you can really say it from your heart. That's why,
yes,
I actually stopped saying thank you for a while unless I actually felt it from my heart.
yeah, that's
And
great.
it made that connection, because you say it mechanically, waitress or somebody does something, you say thank you, but it really took me a practice to realize that everything's a gift. And when I
Yes,
recognize that, then I'm aligned with the universe versus being in my head just saying a couple words.
yes, 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 absolutely.
Yeah.
So, any other good stories?
Oh, well, I have a lot of them in the book. Let me see. I'll give you a miracle story. Uh,
Sure.
we tend to think that things are explainable. Everybody has an explanation. And I was actually a psychic studies major at UC Santa Barbara, where I would study people with vast psychic abilities. And over time, some of those things have happened to me, but you might have heard of the Guru Sai Baba in
Yes,
India.
yes.
He was known for manifesting things out of thin air. And
Yeah,
I'm an
verbooty.
yeah, Vibhuti ashes. And I'm an amateur magician. So I know how to do these things on a illusion basis. So I went to India to see if he could really do this. So the first day I'm there, Sai Baba, he had like 20,000 people there, but I got in front of him. He walked by me. As he walked by me, he puts out his hand like 6 inches from my face and starts making the ashes. And I'm not talking a little bit of ash. I'm like getting drenched in ash.
Uh-huh.
And while he's doing that, I'm looking to see if he's doing it through like a false thumb or some kind of other thing. And he wasn't using any of the standard magic tricks. And then he stops making ash after like a minute of I'm being buried in ashes. He says, "Satisfied, magic man?" And then he bent over, and I thought he was going to say something to me, but he sneezed on me or did something like that. And when that happened, it felt like a Mack truck had hit me, and I had the thought, "Let go, you're about to die." So I let go. I remember being in this, I remember it being like a formless bliss place, no sense
Yes.
in my body or anything. So I come to about 6 hours later in a different room, and somebody says in an Indian accent, "Yes, Babaji, Guruji sneezed on you. You will be here for a couple days. You probably can't feed yourself yet, but this happens occasionally." And so for about 3 days, they took care of me. And I thought, well, that guy has a certain amount of power, you know.
Uh-huh.
So any doubt I had with as I kept meeting gurus and seeing that they did have abilities that were interesting, um, that helped me to inspire me to keep going further.
Yes, yes, yes. So I have to ask though, did when you're with teachers like that, did you find that sometimes uh, there's this feeling that if it's not miraculous, if this particular body mind isn't manifesting the miraculous, that somehow I haven't gotten it. I have to be like them. Did that ever come up for you?
I think every mind thing that can come up has come up through this body mind at some point. So a more accurate question: have you spent a lot of time fixated on that type of thought?
Right.
And not so much for me. I had other fixations, but luckily, I watched other people go through that a lot.
Yes, yes.
And I said, boy, that really looks like a waste of time.
Yeah, yeah.
Then I got stuck on my other fixated thoughts, but that one I was not spending a whole lot of time getting stuck on that one.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And it's helpful to learn, part of, I think, as quote spiritual seekers or whatever you want to call people, is to look to see what other people seem to be doing right and what other people seem to be doing wrong.
Yes.
Because you can accelerate your path. One tool I use is when I see somebody doing something that I go, oh, that doesn't look so good. Instead of being judgmental, I'll say, how is that like something I do?
Uh-huh.
So I'm not creating that separation. Or I've come up with phrases. I talk about this in the Enlightenment Project. Phrases that have helped me to let go of separation. Like
Yes.
one of my favorite ones is there being a perfect them.
Mm.
Think of the political figure that you most dislike.
Yes.
And you can say, well, they're being a perfect them.
Yeah.
Or Jesus said, forgive them, they don't know what they're doing. So little tricks to get over the tendency of the mind to create that separation.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Tricks can be helpful when they are.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I can sometimes get addicted to tricks. So I have a trick for letting go of addiction to the trick.
That's great.
It can be best described by a method that you talked about on the Awareness Explorers podcast, which is just friggin' stop.
Right. Yeah, it's a simple one.
Yeah, good one. The good ones are the best ones, or the simple ones are the best ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this has been great. You've shared a lot of great stories and a lot of great tools.
Mhm.
A lot of them are ones that have come through here spontaneously. It's always nice to hear that other people are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So, any ones you think would be a great one to add, either a trick or a story or both?
Sure. Well, one thing, people can get 5 of my favorite methods that take under a minute to do.
Yes.
Because if I'm lazy and I like to do it in life, they can get my 5 favorite ebook methods of that at theenlightenmentproject.net, and you put in your
Okay.
email and you get that mailed to you for free. Let's think of another one. I've been using one which, well, you probably have heard of the headless way.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah. And I like that one because you don't do it on a meditation cushion. You can do it while driving. I'm doing it right now. And it's a way of recognizing that we are not our head, that if you look out your eyes, you see a body. You can put your hands behind your head and then it looks like out of a void comes your hands.
Right.
And then as you move your hands back, your hands go from the material world back into a void. And
Right.
that perspective of realizing that we're not a body, and you don't have to create it because it actually, your eyes look like that. That's what it looks like, that you're looking from this void or empty space into the material world.
Yes.
And I think we get so caught up with being a body and being a personality that perspective that we're kind of seeing from we're seeing from beingness, would
Yes.
be one way of putting it,
Yes.
is really nice when you can hook into that.
Yes.
And there's no doing.
Right. There's no doing in that. Right.
Yeah.
Because there's already just seeing. There is no seer.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's a nice method, and really, it's a matter of trying out a bunch of things. Sometimes I notice, like I've listened to a lot of your guided meditations, and every now and then you'll say something, and I hear, like, feel the top of my head explode. I go, I gotta write that down. When I was interviewing you for the podcast, I kept on having to write down a phrase that you would use because I said I can't forget that. That's like gold. So in a way, we're all searching for the way to just help ourselves into the place that we already are.
Right.
We're selling water in the middle of the ocean.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Again, back to the comedy.
Yeah.
Back to the comedy.
And comedy is a great tool because it helps to, in a way, it's a mini Sedona method. It's a mini way of like releasing the stuckness.
Yes.
And I actually like listening to stand-up comics because they help you make you aware of things that you should have laughed at the first time.
Right. Yeah. I that is something my wife and I love to do. We like watching comedy because good comics get you to laugh at the ludicrousness of life.
Yeah, and things that
And
you're
it's the
often
simplest thing
hiding
too. Yes.
Yeah, so in a way, they're doing our shadow work for us.
That's a great way to do shadow work. Just laugh through it. As you know from listening to the stuff that we put out, I often can't help it.
Well, it's interesting. When I first started to listen to your stuff, because you laugh a lot.
Yes.
And it used to, kind of like, I was in the framework, like, can we get to the goods? I want to get to the goods.
Right. Enough of this.
And you'd be laughing. I'd be like, yeah, okay, I wish you'd stop laughing so we can get to the goods. And then at some point it switched and I started to laugh with you and the laughing became more of the goods.
Right. I've been asked, I actually never have done this, but I've been asked to make a laugh track. I haven't heard that one in a while.
Yeah. Are you still doing in-person retreats, or are you?
Yes, for now. I don't know how long I'll continue to do it because I'm training new people and but for now I lead 3 or 4 retreats a year. And I lead usually about 3 phone courses where I take a topic and I really explore it in depth with releasing. And that's, at least I know this body mind is scheduled to do it for the rest of this year, and we'll see where it goes from that.
Something most people don't know about me. In 1983, which shows my age, I did my master's thesis on the therapeutic effects of MDMA on PTSD.
Yes.
And I'm finding that, different things work for different people, but I'm finding that a lot of people are coming to spirituality now through a renaissance of the psychedelics and
Yes,
MDMA,
yes,
and so a tool that was used in the 60s got outlawed, and now hopefully with some responsibility and some good guidance, it's reemerging as a
yes,
force in
yes,
the
yes.
spiritual world.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Yeah,
It's and it's having its time because there are articles coming out in publications like Forbes and New York Times and the
yeah,
Wall Street Journal,
yeah,
and very big publications are writing very favorable articles about the benefits people are using it,
yeah.
finding from it in a therapeutic session. It's in a setting. I mean, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I actually teach therapists how to lead those journeys because it's going to be made legal sometime the next year as a medically prescribed drug. I'm talking about MDMA,
Yes.
and that's very
In the
rewarding
United,
work.
oh, that's right. I think that is the first one they're going to legalize in the U.S.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
It took 40 years and $100 million, but luckily it's the results were so positive that the FDA realized that they couldn't come up with a reason not to make it
Right.
a medically prescribed drug.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many things in life that are the things that are legal, some of them probably shouldn't be. And the things that are illegal, some of them should be.
Yeah, yeah,
And again, we often get it backwards. What are you going to
right, right.
do? So, at any rate, let's see. Any other parting thoughts?
Well, the parting thoughts I always do on my Awareness Explorers podcast is, keep exploring, but also realize that it's always here right now.
Yes, yes, we agree on that. We
Yeah,
do.
yeah. And finding, once again, the two-wing analogy,
Yes,
finding that balance. If you're just into exploring, you never find, and if you're just into finding, you and you use that as an excuse to not to work somehow, then
yes,
you kind of, can rot or stay stuck someplace. It might be
mhm,
a good place, but it can be a peace prison.
yes,
So finding that balance is one of the tasks in this lifetime.
yes, yes. Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure. Uh, I really enjoyed talking to you. You're uh, a brother from another mother.
Yep, yep.
So thanks again.
I'm very grateful to you, Hale, for all that you've done and big impact on my life. So it's been a lot of years you've been at this, and I really appreciate the clarity and sincerity, and it's impacted me.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Jonathan Robinson. You can learn more about Jonathan at theenlightenmentproject.net. That's THEENlightenmentproject.net. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe so you have immediate access to future episodes. Please give us a 5-star rating and share it with the people you care about. If you'd like to learn more about my work, my mentor Lester Levinson's work, and the Sedona method, please visit Sedona.com. As you explore our site, you learn the key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. We have books, courses, events, and plenty of free material to explore. Again, go to Sedona.com. That's Sedona.com. Thank you for being here, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Letting Go and the Greatest Secret.